Hello and welcome to Mandibil. I thought it was about time to make a little update on the status of the whole Mandibil experience. I'm not sure how to approach it, this sort of update here, but I'll just go into sort of ramble and then I'll possibly get home at some point and feel satisfied that I'm actually getting somewhere. There have been a few incidents that has sort of lowered my enthusiasm a bit, and one of those was with one of my very concerned, or what's it called, engaged listeners and users of the Discord server forum. And he all of a sudden started to behave sort of in a patronizing, I'm not sure if that's the right term, but it's on the way there, right? Einkrau is the name, about a letter I wrote, or an email I sent to Stefan Molyneux about my concerns about how he had sort of behaved and treated me during the so-called debate we had on metaphysics on the show. And Einkrau started to sort of blame me for not doing it the right way, something like, I just, I was fairly triggered. First I was kind of baffled, and then sort of triggered that it was sort of as a diminishment of my capabilities of how to handle this stuff. I mean, I'm doing this for free, right? Nobody's forced to pay anything, and they can participate at their own expense as they see fit. And I'm pretty open about what I'm doing and what I'm, my opinions about this, that, and the other, and I mean, so I felt it was kind of a show of lack of respect, in my opinion. Between the line, I had a feeling that this was, he doesn't see me as somebody who needs to be respected, right? Or at least that's how I experienced it, and that was kind of surprising to me, right? So, and he was blaming me implicitly or explicitly for something that I couldn't change. It had already been done, right? So I was, and I, came back at him and said, well, what are you talking about, man? If you are not satisfied with how I do it, why don't you do it yourself? Why don't you contact Stefan Molyneux and explain to him how these things are supposed to be done, and so on, right? And then he basically ordered me around, so tell me what you think of this, and tell me about that, and so on. And it became sort of, and then I sort of went back at him, right? What the hell are you talking about? You ordering me around or something like that, right? So, and then at some point he just disappeared, and I haven't heard from him since, right? And as the good person I feel that I am, I wrote a message to him sort of a week later or so, and saying, okay, are you ready to have a discussion about our discourse, right? And he didn't answer me, right? So I'm like, okay, well, goodbye. If you don't have the balls to disagree and then find common ground, well then, the art of the argument and all that, right? And and it's because he realized that he had been behaving like a dick in this regard, but he wouldn't want to go back and say, well, I'm sorry, I'm actually acting like a dick here, right? He wouldn't want to do that because of his own vanity, right? So that says a lot about a person. If they're willing to blame somebody, and then if they find out, I might be wrong, but it was squarely in my face that he acted like a dick, in my opinion, right? So, but he didn't get back. So he just disappeared, right? And then a couple of months back, there was a guy called Monistic Idealism I had spotted in some other forum somewhere, and he sounded like he had some good ideas about metaphysics. I like to discuss metaphysics because I find it to be a fundamental thing that you need to get your grip on, right? And we arranged a meeting and set up a show, or interview, what's it called, a video session, right? A streaming. And then he came back and said to me, oh, by the way, the date we have arranged, can we move it to another date? I say, why? Well, he had some other thing to do. Well, then fuck you, man, right? If it's not, of utmost importance, what can be more important than discussing metaphysics, right? It has to be something like my mother has died, or, something like that, in my opinion. Not just, by the way, something has come up, I want to move it to another date. No, fuck you, man, right? I'm not buying that. I don't want to be treated like I'm sort of a second-rate philosopher who can just be, shoved around because you just need to go to the shopping mall that day with your girlfriend or something like that, right? And then I asked him, by the way, do you consider yourself a Christian? And he said, squarely, yes. And I said, okay, well, I don't think it's a good idea that we have this debate anyway, because I don't like to debate Christians. Because Christianity is a mental child abuse, right? It's, I could go into a long discussion on that at another time. But, and then recently, a week or two ago, right? Another dude had a long response to some of my videos, and I contacted him on the board and so on, and I was said, would you want to come on the show? And we were discussing Hume-Silsort gap, and to some extent metaphysics, right? But mainly Hume-Silsort gap. I thought that was interesting, and I would like to have a debate on it, right? So we agreed upon a date and a time, and because he was in America, so there's a time difference, and we have to make sure that it fit our agenda. We set up a date and a time, and then that was agreed upon. Then a few days later, he went back to me and said, oh, by the way, my girlfriend has planned something, whatever, Halloween, something. I want to move it. No, I said, no, fuck you, man, right? And this one was even worse, because his girlfriend is basically violating the is-ought gap, right? This is the case, therefore you should do this instead, right? And he just, something about, well, she pays the bills because I'm studying, he was apparently studying philosophy on university, right? So I have to, she calls the shots, and because she pays the bills on something like that. No, it doesn't matter. The is-ought gap, you fucking moron, right? So he's violating his own ideas that yes, you can't violate the Hume-Silsort gap, right? Unless you just accept the violation because you're afraid that your girlfriend is going to run away, right? Oh man, right? So he hasn't even explained, he doesn't even understand the everyday significance of the Hume-Silsort gap, and he's studying philosophy on an academic level. Come on, man, moron. So I basically said to him, okay, you're not taking, you don't have sufficient philosophical skills to see all ends of this Hume-Silsort gap and the significance of it. And you are letting yourself violate that with an excuse that is a violation of the Hume-Silsort gap. Don't you see the problem, right? So he went away and never to be seen again, right? So I'm like, Diogenes walking around the streets of whatever, Athens or wherever, right? Miletus, and with a lamp searching for a good person, right? A coherent, a person with a high integrity, somebody you can trust to understand principles, and so on and so on and so on. They're nowhere to be found, man, right? And don't let yourself fold into, okay, I have to accept this because I need this. If you want to be a moral person, you will have to follow your fucking principles, right? And you need to have an understanding of how these principles are to be applied and how to decipher whether people here and there are actually following principles or violating principles that they have themselves claimed to follow. This is an important thing, because people who do not follow their own principles, right? So there was a truck in front of me whose brakes we were holding in the crossroad here. We were holding a little uphill, and it kept slowly backing towards me. So I had to tell him somehow that you need to step on your brakes, mate, before you cross into the front of my car. So it wouldn't have been a big thing, but I would like it to not happen, right? Okay, so and it's like I have so much backbone now that I'm not going to. It annoys me that I'm sort of disappointed, right? Is this, oh, I thought this would work, and then disappointment, right? Oh, I thought this would work, and then disappointment. There's a lot of that. If you're not just going to go with the flow and become a normie, right? If you're just going with the flow, you will learn how to not. You will sort of it will become ingrained in you to accept that people don't follow their own principles or other principles that they can't identify when a principle is needed or needs to be applied and not to be applied and whatever, right? And 999 out of 1,000 people are like this, right? If you want to be a person with a very high integrity, you will have to be able to let go of associations or relations with other people and say, well, okay, too bad. I can't do this because I would have to violate my integrity, and I'm not going to do that, right? And that's why a person like me would never be able to be something like a politician, because they're basically corrupt bastards, right? And possibly most of them are narcissistic psychopaths or something like that, because they don't care. So it's more easy for those types of people, right? To navigate this structure of bullshit. But it's not a. It drains your will to live, basically, I would say, to be a little hard on it, right? It drains your will to live to have to always fold and apply yourself or hold yourself down in order to conform and all this. It destroys your will to be yourself and to live, where you're most concerned about which way does the wind blow tonight and so on, right? Instead of just being you fucking yourself and, stick to your principles, because that's why they're there. If you don't have those principles, you're just blowing in the wind, right? So, okay, maybe there's a part 2 coming up. Well, let's see, right? I have to park my car now and go do something, and see you later.